Two. Go.
So by Chesam and Aleph, we're starting Chazara on the mission of Ein Bein. Ein Bein Zav. So it's like the middle of the page basically. Ein Bein Zav al Raya Shtei Re'iyos, the Raya Shalish Elakar. So we're talking about a person who has an emission, and it's confirmed that it's Zav, it's not just Keri, he has a Zav. So the first time he sees is one thing, the second time is another thing, and then the third time is another thing. So we're classifying the difference between seeing it two times, two emissions over 2 days, or three emissions over 3 days. It could be 3 times in 1 day, or twice in 1 day and one another, but basically it's 3 in a row, or 2 in a row, is what we're discussing. So the only difference between, according to the Mishnah, between seeing 2 emissions or 3 emissions is that by the third one, you're chayav to bring a carbon already. Everything else, according to our Mishnah, would be the same. And so the Gemara. But in regard to sitting or lying on a bed or a pillow or a chair, becoming tamei, the chair becoming tamei, u'svira shiva, or the fact that you would have to count 7 clean days, just like by nida, zev is at shavim. So for these two concepts, these two inyanim of mishkav and moshav and counting 7, it would be the same seeing 2 or seeing 3. From where do we know that the difference between 2 and 3 is mishkav moshav and sviras shiva? From where do we know these 2 rules? The Tan Rabban we learned in the Brayso, Rabbi Simoi said, "Mana akasu shtayim v'karu tamei, shalish v'karu tamei." So there's 2 different psukim. One pasuk 1 it says zav, and tamei it says twice. So because the Torah counted 2 and then said tamei, it counted zav and then said tamei. So then that teaches us that 2 is 1 din. And then shalish v'karu tamei. And then the next pasuk, it says 3 times the word zav, and then it says tamei. So we realize from this, Rabbi Simoi says, we realize from this that 2 is 1 din, and 3 is another din. Okay, it's shtayim l'toma. How does it work? So 2, you're tamei. 3, l'karban. So when you see the third one, the third time in 3 days, the third emission, so then now you're ready chayv and bring the carbon. So the Gemara says, well, maybe the Rabbi Simoi should be like this: ema shtayim l'toma v'lei l'karban. Maybe it means that 2, you see 2 of them, then you would have to bring carbon. Shalosh, the carbon v'lei l'toma. Right, that 2 would make you tamei and no carbon, and 3 would make you carbon but not tamei anymore. Amrit, so we say achalei rosh shalosh rosh time. It can't be that way. The difference has to be that it becomes more chamer, becomes more strict, because once you get to 3, you would have passed 2. Ve'em shtayim the carbon v'lei l'toma. So maybe the difference is that 2 would be carbon and not toma. Shalosh af l'toma. And 3, no toma. That wouldn't be possible. The Tanya, the Brayso teaches us the Kohen is mechaper. The Kohen helps him bring forgiveness l'fnei Hashem, before Hashem, mi zoivai, from his zoiv. Mixas zavin mevi'in carbon, mixas zavin ein mevi'in carbon. So there's some zav toma that could bring a carbon, and some that wouldn't bring a carbon. Okay, so how would this work? Rosh shalosh, if he sees 3, maybe. Shayim ein maybe, but 2 he wouldn't bring. Or maybe el ra shtayim maybe, rosh shalosh ein maybe. Right, so maybe it will be 2, and then 3 he wouldn't have to bring anymore. Amrit, so we say the same thing actually. Ra shalish ra shtayim. Until you saw 3, you also would have had to have seen 2. So once you have the tuma and it didn't go away, it wouldn't be able to be downgraded. I think this is where we got up to, right? In Chazar. Now we're going weiter by the Itzrich. Chesam and Aleph closer to the bottom. The Itzrich, the Rabbi Simoi.
10 lines up in the bottom.
10 lines up. Vitzrich Rabbi Simoi. We need Rabbi Simoi. Rabbi Simoi's what was Rabbi Simoi's limud was that 2 tamei, 3 tamei equals 2 means that tamei, and 3 is tamei, but now you also have to bring a carbon. So the Gemara says Vitzrich Rabbi Simoi. We need Rabbi Simoi's limud. Vitzrich mizayvai, because basically what's the Gemara asking over here? There's 2 different limudim. One is mizayvai, and one is Rabbi Simoi. So why do we need both of them? So the Gemara is explaining to us why it's really a question with an answer. The answer is that you need both because you need mizayvai, the imid, the Rabbi Simoi. If we only had Rabbi Simoi who says 2 carbon, 3 carbon, havamina ki kushin, I would have our question of where's shred, the mashmalon mizayvai, the mizayvai. And if you would only use mizayvai, lo yadana kamariyas, I wouldn't know how many riyas it would take for a carbon. Kamash malon, Rabbi Simoi. Therefore, we need Rabbi Simoi. V'hashta da'amret mizayvai l'drasha. So now that we used Mizayvai for drasha. V'chi yitar azav mizayvai maidrash tebei.
What are you going to do with the puzzles?
V'chi yitar hazav. The pasuk of v'chi yitar hazav.
That also says Mizoy.
Mizayvai, right? So it's v'chi hazav. It's v'chi hazav mizayvai. What else will you be mitaher him from if not for his zav? Maidrash tebei hahu miboyle. L'chedetanya v'chi yitar hazav. L'chashayivsoik mizayvai. V'loi mizayvai.
The difference is?
V'loi mizayvai v'nigai. Mizayvai v'safar. Why am I reading the right way? V'loi mizayvai v'nigai.
Jaime, article.
V'loi mizayvai v'nigai.
Article, no. 5 lines from the bottom. 4 lines from the bottom.
Mizayvai v'drasha. What are we learning from it? The Gemara says, this we needed l'chedetanya, like the Brisa.
That one.
D'chiyat azav v'safar. Melamed shelakashayivsag mizayv miyad yachol hu lahaschel lispar shiva nekim ve'in tzarech tvila koydem asvira mizayv melamed v'loy mizayv v'niga. The hainu shezav shehu.
Zav also has Siraz, so he can start counting right away, even though he's a Mitzayra. He doesn't have to wait. So the Siraz finishes.
Oh, that's what the question is a zav that's also.
We're learning Daf.
Oh, but mizayv. Okay, that's what mizayv
He has the Negatzaras.
He has the Negatzaras. Right. So are you saying that the pasuk of the Chiyat HaRazav is somebody who has zav and tzaras?
Right.
Chiyat HaRazav. Miyad yachal hu lahaschel lispa shivinikim. Ein tzarech tvila kodim asvira. V'loy miziv v'nigar. Right. So he has zav and he also has negat tzaras. So the Hainish Zav who gam tami machmas negas ras yochel lisba shivnikim mizav avizman shadayin lo nirpa v'nigar. Right. So even though he still has the nega, he still has the tzaras. Or he has the nega, maybe not yet tzaras, but he has a nega tzaras. So he could still start counting his zayin nekim. Am I reading that correctly? I
Yeah,
hope so.
to get straight into the Zayin Akim.
Mizoy v'safar. Li made al zav bal shtei riyos. Shetaron hu svira shemigim. Right. Li made al zav bal shtei riyos shetaron svira shiva. V'loy dinhu. Frek the Gemara v'loy dinhu imitame mishkov moishav lo yetaron svira shiva. Shouldn't it be something that's understood that once he's Matam and Mishkav Moishav, right, by the second already he's Matam and Mishkav Moishav, wouldn't he have to count Sfira then?
7 days. Yeah.
Now we're going into
Shomer Yom.
Shomer Yom Keneged Yom. Right, so Shomer Yom Keneged Yom is a woman who has, I believe after the seven Nikiyim, she sees blood. Right, so it could be Zav. Right, so it's in her, the 11 days after the 7, that she sees blood. So, right, but what's the Shomer Yom Keneged Yom? That she has to follow a day, Keneged a day. It shows that
there's no connection
Count
between.
for one day. She just doesn't have to count for 7. If she sees one day,
if she sees one after 7, right? Because she counted 7 already, then she was clean.
One for one.
Right, but I think this is like that now we're saying that it's Zav, right?
Because the Gemara just asked about Dini, isn't the Kal V'Chaymer that if you Makam and Mishka V'Meisha, you should also need to have Shiva Nekiyim, Svir Shiva. So the Gemara says no. Shomer Yom Keneged Yom. Shomer Yom Keneged Yom to prove you otherwise. Shematam and Mishka V'Meisha.
But what does it mean that she's Shomer Yom Keneged Yom?
She's talking in the days that after
and now she's clean and she had hefsek.
After this, in general, this is something. The way it works, there's 7 and 11, 7 and 11. In general, we're machmer like everything today in Hilchos.
Right, but 11 would be the cycle, like 7 and 11.
So Right, exactly. So
Rashi
it
says
depends
it.
when it
After
falls
the
out.
7,
Oh, yeah,
right.
it's a big, yeah.
During the.
Right, already Yom Echad Lenido, Moine Yom Echad Velas by Yom Techir.
No, the 11 days.
So
are
she
off
sees
days.
one, then she
That's-
waits
that's
one
only
day.
Shemeres Yom. She doesn't become a full nida. It's not in the
If it's not in the
expected 7
cycle,
days.
it's if after the 7 days. So then
Right.
she,
So
so
Shemeres
Shemeres
Yom
Yom means that you see one Re'iyah, and then you have to wait another clean day,
Just
and
one
then
day,
she
then
goes back to the
can go
mikveh.
further. Yeah,
Then she goes back to the
She
mikveh
doesn't
because-
need 7.
Because it's not from the 7.
No, it's, yeah.
Well, you get, Chaim, you get what Shemeres Yom can I get?
Even though that she doesn't have to wait one day and then continue.
Okay, so
Between
in the
11.
introduction to Hilchos Nida, the Torah explains this whole thing. It's a very we keep today
We
because
don't
we
do
don't
that.
know these
We-
things anymore. No, so
Oh.
we just do we sort of do everything.
Yeah,
It used to be that a woman had those 7 days a month be'erich that she would get it. That was when she had the Shivan Akiyim specifications. The same type of Riyah in the 11 days that came after the 7 would only make her Shemeir Siyam Kenegdiyam, meaning she only needed 1 day, and then she could right away go to mikveh. In the 7-day period, she needed to wait 7 days.
Okay. But
Shivan
in the
Akiyim.
11 days-
In the 11-day period, she needed 1 day.
And then
The next day, she went straight back.
Right.
Because it's not expected, and so it's like a flux. It's like a mach, so you can't ignore it, but you don't have to have Shivan Akiyim.
So she's the Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom Techiach. That will prove it, right? Shemitama Mishkav Moshe, she's already,
In the Tumah of Mishkan.
because she saw Dam, so she's already Mitama Mishkav Moshe. The Einatuna Sfira Shiva. But she doesn't have to count 7 because it's not part of the time when she would have to count 7. V'afata al Tisma al Zeh,
Don't do all on this.
Shavi Shemitama Mishkav Moshe v'lo Yatan Sfiras Shiva. Tam Loimar Mi Zoivai V'Safar. Right, and he counted. So from his Zoiv, and he counted. The Safar is 7. Mikza Zoiv V'Safar, Limed Al Zav Bal Shtei Re'iyos. Right, so V'Safar, it teaches us, right, Mikza Zoivai, and from Mikza Zoivai, not from a full, right, from part of Zoivai, V'Safar, Limed Al Zav Bal Shtei Re'iyos, Sheton Sfira Shiva. Right, so it teaches us on someone who saw 2, not 3 yet, that he has to count 7. Amalei Rapapala Abai. Ma'ishno Hai Mizoivai. What do we learn from this Mizoivai? The Marbe Bei Zov Bal Shtei Riyos. That's part of the question, right? Ma'ishno Mama Shoino Milas Mizoivai.
There's two mizayvahs. Why is diffs mizayvah the marva beis avshterius? In Ma'ashnam high mizayvah the memat beis avshterius. You're using one to be marva, and you're using one to be memat.
One's including and one's excluding, right? The if you think that this mizoiva is coming to exclude, it would just say, what would it say? It would say mizoiva and not go on. Im Time Shadin Shivnikim Bizav Bal Shteris Roy who Hayal he lamed Mikach Svara Loishum Rosh Shahal Benazav if you think that you would just understand it from the words itself, Shomeres Yom Keneged Yom Techiach. Shein Lenich Mazav Shakol Hamatam Mishkav Moshe V'Kichol Chayim Matum Azov Ton 7 Nikim Uchimvur B'Divrei Brayso Atzma. V'chi Teima Haimi Boile. If you say this word of Mizoivai, what do we need that for? Mizoivai V'Loi Minigai. Imkain Lichtay Kro V'Chiyat Azov V'Lishtaik. So why couldn't the pasuk just say V'Chiyat Azov?
That's it.
Mizoivai Lamali. Why do we need the Mizoivai? V'Li Meid Alzev Baal Shtei Riyos. That Sheton Afhu Sheton Sfira Shiva. That he needs 7. Teaches us that once you saw 2 Re'iyas, you need to count 7.